Today I'm going to be playing Cosmic Outpost, which is this cute little base building and defense game set in space. Really cute sort of aesthetic to it that you can see here. And for this video I think I'm just going to do a long play and leave it running for the most part. I'm going to cut out some bits where I might sneeze or something like that. But there are some issues with this game that I think only become apparent if you play it for a decent amount of time. For some reason I find this difficulty selection very difficult because there isn't one that is in the middle, but we'll go with Pioneer because it's recommended. Move the camera with WASD. Okay, rotate the camera with QE or the right click. Zoom out the camera with X and Z or the wheel, and then place a miner factory. Okay. Anywhere in particular, just wherever I want. Gonna fall for the classic city builder trap where I put everything in stupid places immediately. Create a miner. You mate, you're gonna go and get some plastic out of there, I guess. You know, from the plastic mines. Classic strategy resource is plastic ore. Yeah, I wasn't paying attention to the tutorial enough. It was telling me to click on one of these resources here. So they can collect green, they can collect sushi, or they can collect atoms. Next round button down here. Okay, cool. Locate the enemy location and place a basic turret. Is the star tower the basic turret? Okay, cool. I feel like it might be worth just calling it the same thing in both places. Next round, enemies will come. Yeah, I do like this sort of structure of video game where you have a sort of turn-based board gamey feeling thing, but it still has everything sort of bimbling around, moving around in the environment, giving the sense of a real place rather than a just direct translation of a board game where everything is static and abstract. I do quite like that. Each turn you'll make strategic decisions to build and upgrade your outpost. You'll encounter periodic waves of enemies seeking to challenge your claim to the planet. How dare they? Who do they think they are? Build your interstellar spacecraft and construct your outpost on new planets. Okay. Nice, clear. What you're trying to do, what's going to stop you. We don't need pages and pages to explain all that. It's just there. I'm going to build a solar panel. Just going to build a bunch of them. It says I can create a vehicle, but I don't really know what sort of vehicle that would be yet. Going to be strong enough to take them out, or have I screwed it up already? Yep. They're going to eat my whole base now because I didn't build a second tower. But it looks like they've left. They've walked off without smashing my whole base. So that's something at least, I guess. I do what I always end up doing in these games is restart because my first couple of rounds were bad and it set me up poorly for the rest of the game. There's at least enough stuff here that I like that I kind of want to do that, right? I want to try again. I'm going to try it on Vanguard difficulty as well. You know, I just died immediately, so what do? We put the difficulty up. But I want to see if it's playable. It doesn't seem like the placement of these matters, so I think one of the things that I'm going to want to explore in this game is how much does the placement of anything really matter? Because I think that can really sort of change how a game of this type feels. Okay, I've got at least one miner on each resource at the start of the game, and then we've got enemy incoming from over there, so I'm going to put a tower over there. I've played a few sort of, I guess, pseudo turn-based board gamey feeling games on Steam recently, and I think when people try and simplify this base building down, you can end up in a sort of case where it feels like the location of stuff doesn't matter. So what I need to be doing, based on what I've seen so far, is making sure I have 10 of these two building resources at all times so that when there is a new wave coming in, I can always build a new tower on that side. Overall, I think this is a neat game that does some things very well and is a good example of its genre. But there are a few kind of key decisions that I think relatively easy tweaks would make it you know, top of its class, but at the moment they sort of hold it back a bit and made it a little bit frustrating, and sort of led to situations where I think an average player might rage quit this sort of thing and not come back to it. So let's just see those as I kind of stumble through my first few playthroughs of this game. So we should be able to get one more tower in here before the enemies come. I don't know whether it's better to put them in a row or staggered. Just experiment with it, I guess. And we've got our vehicle coming. I could have built another vehicle before this wave, actually, so something I need to remember to do. I do feel like there is some strategic positioning around the vehicle factory placements. I can finally build a plastic factory, so I'm going to start building them down here. Have I got all the miners I can have? Looks like it. And I can't build any more. Can't build any more miners. I can build a second vehicle, so let's do that now. Now I'm just waiting for my resources to stack up. So I've got quite a lot more plastic than conductives now, so I'm going to send a few of the miners over to get conductives and start stocking up on leaves. Once you get into a groove of producing stuff and not losing massive amounts of things once you get attacked, this is a really kind of satisfying little engine. I just think it's very easy to get soft locked early on running out of a particular type of resource and not being able to build the thing for it, you know? But yeah, it's quite frustrating that none of these tell you what their maximum amount they have is, because I might decide, again, this is just silly base building aesthetics thing, but I might decide I want to put my solar panels in little banks of 6 like this, and then if it's not if it's not divisible by 6, then I can't do that. But I have no way of telling ahead of time that I can, you know, how many of each thing I can have. It just hits me with that you've reached the max whenever it feels like, which is frustrating. I do wonder if when a tower's health is this low, if it's more efficient to destroy them and get the resources back and then build a new one. Because I don't have the repair station yet, and I'm not going to have it for a while because it's taken me quite a while to get to a point where I've got anyone doing any research. But we're now at our maximum amount of power generation we can have, so I sort of have to destroy oh no, if I turn that one off we get a bit more. Enemy incoming next round, so I'm going to turn these on now. I'm really disappointed that this central tower doesn't fire that far. It'd be great to be able to upgrade it, because it just looks visually like it should be able to help these guys out when they're being attacked, and it doesn't. I think maybe getting some research things completed and then building another vehicle factory is going to be a good thing to do soon. I don't feel like the layout of my base matters too much in this, and don't know how I feel about that, because I kind of want it to matter. Again, lots of dead turns where we're just sort of skipping and... Right, now I can afford something research-wise. Getting our next level of solar panels, which is probably the most helpful thing we can get at this stage, because running out of power quite a lot. Yeah, now we're getting 10 per turn, that's much better. Looks like the next resource we need to start going for is gas as well, which we don't have any of. More enemies coming from that side next, so let's get an extra tower down. Turn it off until they arrive. Destroy that one and put a more powerful one there. Missing out on any resources, not at the moment. Right, they are coming now, so let's turn these on. Here they come. I really like the enemies. They look like cute versions of the bugs from Helldivers. And then just so this is upgraded for next time, I think I'm going to turn that middle one into a plasma tower. Not sure why it uses food, but I also don't really mind. Ah, this looks ominous. We've got a big, scary purple face coming from over here. So the idea, I guess, is once you've got the automations to a particular level, then you can start building your progress for your rocket, but just not at a stage where I can spend the resources on that yet. Okay, enemy big stinky boss incoming now. And I'm gonna put a plasma tower at the front. I'm just sort of guessing that this is a sort of high damage, low something else type tower, but I haven't really checked. Doesn't look very different from the others, you know? You have to get up close to see the difference between these towers. Oh look, they're rolling. They're little rolly slug things. Right, I think we can do this, but we don't know how tough the mama is. She's gonna munch through a few of these towers, or maybe at least one of them. Or not. Yeah, okay. You took out one of the cheapy towers. That's fine. That's fine. You can have that one. It does sort of beg the question of whether the power to the turrets should just turn off on its own on rounds when they're not used, and they, you know, they only use a unit of energy up on turns when they're actually defending. But it just sort of depends whether you find that micromanagement and the ability to accidentally forget what you're doing and forget to power them up, whether that is interesting in its own right. I don't mind doing this micromanagement if I've got the tools to sort of quickly do it in one or two clicks, but I don't have that at the moment, and it's you know, you can bring up this list of what's using your power, but you can, that's just for information. Like, I can't go on there and turn off everything of a kind. Right, I don't really have much I can do at the moment. It's going to be a couple of rounds of just churning through resources and... I knew it would happen eventually. I forgot to turn them back on. Just clicking through the rounds a bit too fast. And I can't... Look, I can't turn them on during the combat, so I'm screwed. I mean, the middle building is going to maybe help out and the vehicles might do enough, but I've lost this whole bank of turrets now because of that. I just think that's a little bit unforgiving. I mean, it feels like it's my fault, which ultimately, you know, you want players to feel like when something is their fault, it is their fault and not the game, but I don't know. I'm so used to playing turn-based games where if you're about to make a big boo-boo, the game goes, hey, did you know you've forgot to do this thing? This isn't doing that in a place where it perhaps should. So what I'm going to do now, though, I guess losing those towers gives me a reason to go in and revise what I was doing with my towers, which was I initially put them close to here because I was hoping, you know, enemies would get close and it would get this free attack from the one on the roof. So what I'm going to do now is do a bit of a redesign so that they have to get close enough to the main building to engage my towers at all. One of the things I'm struggling with here is, okay, this level so far has taught me that enemies are going to come from the top right and enemies are going to come from the left, but there's nothing that really explains or justifies that. It's just a sort of pattern, and I think if there was a clear environmental sign of why the characters were coming from those directions, it would set my mind at ease that the game isn't going to suddenly ambush me later and just make some come in from here where I'm not defended, right? And that could be achieved in a few ways. It could be having valley walls round with just two ways in, so you know the whole level they're only going to be coming from those two places. But at the moment I still feel like a little bit paranoid that something is going to show up in a direction I'm not defended on. And I don't think that feels great. I think that feels like a sort of limitation of design that would be quite easy to resolve by just making it clear why the enemies are coming from these directions, you know, making it so that there is some sort of clue in the environment as to why these are the places that they're attacking from. The AI seem to all target exactly the same point, because there isn't really like a very rational way that you can predict exactly where they're going to attack, except kind of remembering where they did last time. And that means if they go for a particular point that just takes them out of the reach of your guns, it's really frustrating. So I think I think what I would like to see to remedy that would be to have the target point for all the enemies just slightly randomized between each unit so that they're not all swamping the same building at the same time. But I guess that might just lead to the overall attacks feeling like really slow and like they take forever because they're not ganging up on the same building. But I guess, you know, these losses are at least giving me a quick opportunity to kind of rejig where my stuff is, and now I can put it down here and put guns in the way of it, and then they hopefully can't take it all out. So let's have a couple of rounds with the power off to these, and you know, being able to do that is getting more and more tedious the more towers I build. And I do have a lot of electricity, and it shouldn't matter, I should be able to just leave them on, but it's the sort of kind of efficiency thing where in this kind of game I'm going to do it if I can. It needs to have a quick way of turning them all on and off, I think. That is a lot of stuff we just lost this time. Hyper sniper, what's that? If I spread the towers out more, it's just going to kind of lead to a situation where they take out one tower, then they take out the next tower. I don't know. I don't know why it's taken so long to get to a point where I can build more vehicles as well, because the vehicles are the only safeguard against this issue where, you know, the characters, the enemies all attack exactly the same point, and if that point is just slightly out of the range of some of your towers, then you are screwed. It's taken a very long time to get to a point where I can actually build any more than just those two vehicles to defend my base, so not sure what the deal is with that. A lot of the limitations on what I can build and how much of things I can build and stuff, they just feel very, very arbitrary. Not very well signposted. I can't see ahead of time what things I'm gonna, you know, max out on before I do. And it's just really, it's bothersome. That's what it is. It's bothersome. We've got lots of carrots though, so let's make some better towers that use carrots. Hey you, we need a vegan to come and operate this massive laser gun. Were you paid in carrots at your last job? You may be entitled to compensation. I'm gonna build a layer of rocket. Look, we've got a layer of rocket. Now next we need plastic and leaves, so we can afford that. So let's just build that. And then the next one we need leaves and gas, which we already have. It's interesting when you just got enough of something. And then the next one we just need some bombs, and then we can build the rocket. So we've actually completed 75% of the goal of this game just by me suddenly remembering that that's a thing we have to do and ploughing all of our resources into it. Interesting. I sort of want to be making enough electricity that leaving the towers on is negligible. And you can just, you know, ignore it and just leave them on for multiple rounds. But at the moment, they drain stuff too much. Which is why you want to up the amount of carrot-powered towers that you have in your domain. Right. I think as long as I don't get caught out again and forget to turn on my defense grid on one side, we're gonna be able to build that rocket soon. A few more rounds until we've got 50 bombs, and then we'll be out of here. We're gonna get our 50th bomb now. Build the rocket. Is that it? Is that goal complete because we finished the rocket off? Why? Ah, the cores are to power the rocket. We need 150 of those. So it was good that I built the core extractors or whatever they were called earlier on, because they've served us well. Fly. Completed it. Done it. 100%. No, there's other planets to do. There's other difficulty levels. I really like this. I found it a bit of a grind. It's a bit of a grind in terms of trying to sort of efficiently unlock all the stuff, and there were a few things I just kept forgetting about and kept catching me out there that you saw, right? It's not a hard recommend at this stage, but I think there are maybe 4 or 5 issues that I had recurrently through that game that are quite easy fixes in terms of the sorts of things I kept forgetting about, the sorts of things I wasn't given enough contextual information about. Like, if I can only build 3 of something, why are you not telling me ahead of time that, you know, there's 3 slots for that thing? It's quite arbitrary already. It feels like a weird game balance thing to say, oh, you can only have 1 of these buildings that builds vehicles. Okay, well, you need to tell me that up front, but also it just feels very arbitrary to have that. And I think there will be a lot of players that want to be able to build on that grid with no limitations on how many of each thing they can build, because the limitations feel like they come from nowhere, and they probably come from a very sound place in terms of balancing the game, but they are not communicated very well. So yeah, I don't know. I think this is a cute little game. I like what it's doing. If someone asked me for a light strategy game, I would probably still, maybe it wouldn't be on the top of my list in its current form, but I can see there's a lot of potential here, and I think there are a few easy fixes to make to some of the issues that we've witnessed me getting stuck with. I like being able to turn all of one particular thing on or off at the same time would dramatically change how this feels to play, because I had 2 big losses in that run that were based on me trying to conserve energy by turning off the towers and then forgetting to turn them back on in a particular place. And I just think the targeting of the enemies and the way they all go for exactly the same spot feels very, very mean in certain places when it's just out of your reach. And I think having them spread out to maybe like 3 targets, or they don't have to all be totally random, but having them target more than one place could stop that sense. When they are all attacking the same building and that building is just out of reach of your guns, it's really frustrating. It's a very kind of, I think the AI, the way that the enemy AI works, makes it feel very all or nothing. You're either, you know, your guns are positioned in a way that you are hitting them, or they are totally out of reach of your guns and they are much, because they're all in the same place attacking the same thing. And if they spread out a little bit and chose multiple targets, then you'd probably have a situation where, okay, there's some that are running wild and just eating your base, and then there's others that are going for the guns, and the fact that they are all kind of force firing the same spot just makes it feel really mean when they manage to just randomly hit the point where they're just out of reach of all of your guns. So it felt like the type of situation that sort of needs to be fixed at an AI level, rather than hoping the players will kind of learn and adapt to it, because I don't think that the kind of learning and adaptation in that particular case is going to lead to a more fun experience. And the only way around the situations I could see would have been just having more guns more spread out. But then you never really get to the situation where you're putting them together so that they combo in a particular way, which is like a core thing of like stationary defense strategy games, is like, you know, putting my freeze tower next to my other tower so that they can interact in a particular way, and we're not getting that here. So I don't know, a little bit of thinking about how the enemies work when they attack the base could probably go a long way here. But I think it's a cute little game. I like what I've seen so far. I wouldn't recommend it currently, but I think getting it to a place where I would recommend it, it's like a couple of tweaks in key places to do with like the balance, the unlocking, and the way that certain things are communicated to the player. And as you saw, if you give me the opportunity to turn the power off on things, I am going to try and go for that efficiency play of maximizing efficiency, turning things off when we don't need them. But then having to do that manually on every single unit was just deeply tedious.